Hey, welcome back to our podcast.
Hi.
I feel like we haven't done one of these in so long for some reason.
Did we do one last Sunday?
I think so. We did. It was just super late because I was out of town.
Oh, true.
Anyway,
right.
back to our podcast.
We were also a little under the influence, I think.
Yes.
Special edition. Anyways.
Today we're talking about forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
And specifically, about letting go of certain things too. But when I was looking it up, like forgiveness is more of, like if I wanted to look at the opposite of forgiveness, it would be either vengeance or, what does it say? Punishment.
I feel like vengeance and punishment is like an action. Like you're going out of your way to do something.
Yeah, which is forgiveness also is you going out of your way to let go of those things. Because I feel like letting go of something is different than forgiving something.
Okay.
Because letting go could be not at this moment, you know?
Right.
Whereas forgiveness means I don't need for you to be punished and I don't need my vengeance anymore. Like, it's whatever.
That makes sense.
And I also wanted to hear from you if forgiveness is something that everyone should do. Like, is that something that
like everyone should do? Like everyone should forgive, or everyone deserves forgiveness?
No, I don't think everyone deserves forgiveness.
Okay.
But I think everyone should forgive people.
Okay.
But on the grand scheme of things, that would trans into like our justice system as well. Like, should we just forgive everything? Or is punishment necessary?
Right. I feel like punishment is necessary in in a lot of certain situations, but they're very specific. Like purposeful murder, I don't know if I can forgive you. You know, if you physically went out of your way to murder somebody, I don't know if we can forgive you. You know, and I'm talking about like beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like there's a video of you being like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go murder this dude, and you go murder him, and people out here, free my man. He don't deserve to be in jail, and it's like, no, he deserves worse than being in jail. But America's run off of a prison system, so that's why they have him in jail. Because I feel like a lot of situations like that, where someone's a serial killer, or someone you can clearly tell, like blatantly tell, like, oh, this person is a murderer. I'll give you, if you want to, like, per case, like, if you say we want to give them time to refute the evidence that has been brought upon them, and then once this time limit is up, their life is up. Because there's no reason that we're keeping serial killers alive, true rapists alive, true molesters alive. And I'm not talking about, because rape right now is a really touchy subject in the world right now, because you got the Me Too movement, you have the push for make sure you get consent and everything like that. So everything's real touchy, you know. It almost makes you feel like you have to do over consent, you know, because having someone say yes sometimes is not even enough for the world to be like, okay, well, we'll keep our nose out of it, you know. And then the same thing goes for rape, because there's a number of times where people will be like, oh, I've been raped before. And you're like, oh my God, you've been raped? He's like, yeah, one time I was with my my boyfriend, and we started getting into it. I started liking it, and then I didn't want to do it anymore. And then he just kept going, and he basically raped me. And I'm not defending him, but then on his end, when he looks at it, never once did she say she wanted to stop. You know, that was a feeling on the inside of her. And I'm talking about those cases specifically. I'm not talking about cases where the girl's just like hitting him and saying, get off of me and shit like that.
I feel like...
But I'm just saying, it's a touchy subject right now because...
Can I be truthful though?
Go ahead.
Can I let in our life into this as well?
Go ahead.
If I'm not into it, you can tell, babe.
Right.
So I feel like...
But we've been together a lot longer.
I don't think so. I think if you're a skis, you're a skis. Like, I feel like you know when a woman is into it. And even if you feel like it's slightly off, that should turn you off to a point where we can have that conversation.
Right.
I feel like you have been open towards me, whereas like, okay, I know something's wrong. Let me talk to her and figure out why. You know what I mean?
Right.
And be like, well, I don't want to do it if you don't.
Right.
But not every man is like that. They'll be like, oh, she's being weird, whatever. I'm still going to get my nut. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like that should count as rape, because why aren't we having that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't feel comfortable enough to have a conversation that might lead to us not having sex, then why are we even in a relationship?
But that all stems from them both being mature. Because a mature person...
But you shouldn't be having sex if you're not mature.
Scratch that. That's very, very high and mighty to say you shouldn't have sex if you're not mature. Because A, people are going to have sex regardless, whether they're mature or not. You have teenagers out there having sex with each other, and they are not mature. They're not. So to say that you shouldn't be having sex if you're not mature, it's just like putting a Band-Aid on the whole issue.
All right, you shouldn't have sex with somebody if you're not comfortable around them.
Right. I'll agree with that one. I'll agree with that one, but the other one I can't agree with.
But I feel like it's two sides of the same coin. Because maturity doesn't only mean age. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's a mindset.
It is a mindset.
So if you're like 15 or whatever in your first relationship and they want to move forward and you guys talked about it, and that, I feel like most people are like, well, talking about it is awkward. And I'm like, how is it awkward if it's someone that you want to have sex with? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially
but at the same time, people of that age, no matter how mature they are, especially if they're in school, there's other factors at play besides maturity.
like
Number one being your first time. You know, if it's in fact your first time, people usually catch that
clout.
not even clout. You catch one of two things. You catch that after sex glow where you're like, oh my god, I'm terribly in love with this motherfucker right here.
Mm-hmm.
Or you catch the opposite of it and you're like, I just had sex with this person. Ew, get away from me. And you don't even want to be around him anymore. And that's their first time. That's
Wow.
that's not a thing where it's like, oh, you just disgusted me in the moment. No, like after their first time, something changes inside you. Something in you changes. No pun intended.
But I feel like that only happens to you if it's someone you didn't have a conversation with, or you don't feel comfortable around. You know what I mean?
Or you ultimately was with them for the wrong reason. Because if you're with someone for the wrong reason, after you do something like that, you generally just like, not saying everybody, but people who really care about themselves will be like, I feel disgusted that I even did that. Mm-hmm. And they don't even want to be around the person. Their whole life has been about to turn around. They about to have a new beginning. But in school, if a girl does that and drops a dude like, oh my god, he's disgusting, maturity or not, he's going to tell his friends. Everyone's going to be hurt already because of it. Mm-hmm. He's going to tell his friends the story. She's going to tell her friends the story. And there's going to be 2, 3, 4 stories going
But the
around.
real question is, do you forgive that person for telling stories about you?
Maybe once we're adults. But I feel like in the moment, as a teenager going through that, mm-hmm. forgiveness is not on your mind. Like, you have to be a very, very different type of teenager to have forgiveness on the mind when something like that happens.
Okay, so there's certain things that aren't forgivable at the certain time, and there's certain acts that aren't forgivable at all.
Mm-hmm. Because those are things you have to take into account because, you know, not to bring our life into it, but I just feel like I don't believe that. I feel like there's people that forgive people that murdered their kids. There's people that forgive rapists, and I feel like it's not to put them on a pedestal and be like, well, I forgive you and you can go about your life. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's more of, I'm not going to hold on to anything that you did to me. Right.
Because that is not going to define who I am and who I want to be looking forward. Mm-hmm. And I feel like anything can be forgivable. Anything.
Oh, no.
And the forgiveness, and I know a lot of people will be like, that's such a cliche, but the forgiveness is for you. It's not for that other person. It's not to validate them. It's to validate yourself. And be like, I don't need to constantly think about what you did to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to move on with my life.
But is there a point where you can look at that situation and be like, I'll probably never forgive you, but after this day, it won't cross my mind.
That is forgiving.
But you're like, I can never forgive the person.
That's different. That's I can never forgive. I could forgive, but I can't forget.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I won't put myself in that situation again because I've learned from my mistakes, but that doesn't mean I don't forgive that person. You can learn from your mistakes and still forgive somebody.
Okay.
And just be like, I won't do that again, but I'm going to move forward and...
So it's like the teaching your kids something.
My life. Yeah. That's your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Is picking up and moving on, because shit's gonna happen. A lot of shit's gonna hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you got to, I don't know, I don't want to force future me or future you to be like, well, just keep pushing forward, but at the end of the day, what else do we have to do?
Right.
Because I feel like surviving is a given, you know what I mean? But I don't want to just survive. I want to be able to be happy in my life. And I feel like it's hard to be happy when you're constantly thinking of your traumas.
Right. But ultimately, not to throw it off subject, but we're all just a little speck on this blue rock floating in a vast space of nothingness made out of just little atoms. What we plan to do and what we want to do means almost nothing to the universe.
But like you said to me countless of times, it's even if there's a big grand scheme outside of these four walls,
I'm just gonna live my life.
I'm just gonna live my life because this is all I know.
Unless you can give me irrefutable proof of the way you need to live your life to get what certain thing when your life ends, don't come at me with anything else. That's why I don't do religion.
And that is for another topic on another day.
Shots fired!
But thanks so much for joining us. We love you. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Hi.
Stop telling people to like and subscribe.